Okay. So I'm just getting this set up. If you're watching the replay of this, I'm sorry for the first little bit. Taking the link to put on the board. It's the wrong thing. We are recording even though you can't see it, DY, so be, behaved.
Professional.
Relative, I mean, no more than normal. Like, don't make them suspicious, but.
Don't be overly professional. Then they know it's an act.
Right. The best part of this would be when Flando bursts in, just screams while we're in the middle of the show. But
he's going to wait for like 20 minutes.
Maybe. Starts at 8, but we are in there now. Plan to go until around 9. We will repost the video in case you missed it.
Do we ask for questions in advance?
No, they'll just have them. We'll just answer them live in there. Last time they're pretty good. Or they have to click on it. Look at that picture.
Oh man, you're so cute.
And you will have to click on the white wording on the top left corner of that YouTube pick link to actually enter the interactive chat as opposed to just the video. Okay. Mess around with our stuff a little bit.
Yep.
I think this is pretty good. So this is a private link. So nobody should be in here yet. I just now put the link on the board.
Nobody.
And yeah, I mean, if we stay at 0, it'll be great. We'll just,
Just drink our waters.
Yep. Two-tone purple look, you can't really tell because there are great lighting on this set, but I got the KSO Tell Your Friends shirt on. I was going to go that, but I thought t-shirt alone probably not professional enough. I don't have shoes on right now, and I'm wearing sweatpants. But from from here up, pretty good. It's mostly from here. Hey, Ning Lu's in here. He lives down there in Texas. Remember, we're going to see him in Frisco. Well, I don't know if he lives in Frisco, but he's down there. Good Flando's on his way. That's good. Sure, appreciate you being in here. It's we'll say this over and over again until we start. But 8 o'clock we'll actually start doing this at 7:45. So 15 or so more minutes until this thing starts for real. But as people come in, we'll be happy to chat with you. Mason's on his way. Flando's on his way.
Well, better get started before
there we go. That's more centered. We're thinking about putting some old mini helmets in here. We got some retro ones. We got this one. That's a good one. I think DY's favorite is this one.
Oh yeah.
I'd like to start using it again. That's almost KSU_fan type cat script there. But we got a couple people in here. Appreciate it for sure. About 14 minutes, we'll get started up. We have some people playing 2K in the background. I will try to get them from being, too competitive and vulgar with it, but there's no real guarantees.
Had a good day. I've had a good 2K day.
Yeah, better than me.
Have you won yet?
Yeah, beat Neil. And red, technically. Man, look at that. I just turned my phone on and look at that light. Is that terrifying? What if I did the whole show like this? Look how scary that is.
Maybe do it on Halloween.
Oh, where'd it go? It went away. Man. Excited. We're going to head to Fort Worth, tomorrow morning? We should probably leave at like 7.
Yeah, I was going to think earlier, because you never know what traffic you're going to hit on that drive.
I'm going to have to tell Flando we're leaving at 7, and I'll drive.
Yeah, even if it's a little soon.
Yeah. I mean, how long is it? 8 hours? I mean, I know there's traffic, so we're going to lose some time there too.
Because we always hit something around Oklahoma City.
What time should we leave to get there? Let's see here.
What time is it? 7?
8, I think. think it's 8 Central.
That'll help.
Yeah.
Because the only time you really hit. And to have about a 9-hour drive at the worst. So 7 should be okay. You're right. Yeah.
7:45. It's gonna be cold tomorrow there. It's cold here too, man.
Cold as crap in Dallas. You're right.
Yeah.
But the wind chill in Manhattan
here right now, so
it's going to be in the negatives.
It says 8 hours, 7:45. So we left at 7 plus 8 hours, 5 o'clock. We're gonna get stuck in traffic forever to not make it on time.
Yeah, I mean that's why I said 7 will be really.
Yeah, we're gonna leave at 7. Yeah. We should tell Flando 6 though, because if we tell him at 7, he won't be ready at 7.
He'll be ready at 8.
But if we say 6, we're gonna be fine. All right, we got a few more have joined in. I appreciate that. We're just messing around with this until 8 o'clock, so we'll really start answering questions. That seems good. That seems good. I'm going to run off for a second. DY, do your best. Entertain them all.
Yeah. We might sit here in silence, folks.
Yeah.
What's ever on everyone's minds? Huh? Tell me your problems.
Dr. DY.
Dr. DY at your service. The first helmet kind of looks like the Mississippi State helmet. This one. Yeah, the white K-State one. I could see that with the M. I definitely could see that. I think it has some Mississippi State resemblance. The maroon and the purple is not, or whatever Mississippi State's colors is not terribly far off. So,
yeah. I wonder how they hear it's not mics. Because if they hear it's fine, we don't even need to plug the mics in.
How's the volume?
Is the volume okay? Do we sound real echoey? Is it real bad? Or is it great?
I know it's not first class, but
no, maybe not even second class. Bursting in the door, panicked because he's late getting here, which has never happened before. Well, just tell me we don't need the mics, man. Don't worry about it.
NBC Sports just came out with the new top 25.
What do they got? Tell us. Why don't you read it off spot by spot for us to kill these last 10 minutes?
Because I think you're going to like it.
Okay. Here comes the reveal of NBC Sports top 25. Breaking news from Derek Young. Read them off.
Number 1.
Oh, no, go the other way. Go the other way.
Okay. Well, they have a number 25. So the 25, we get to the top 10, you're going to guess.
Okay. Well, okay. Yeah.
So 25 is Central Florida.
Okay. Big. Did they beat Houston last night, right? Big win for them.
Yeah, 24 is Cincinnati.
Okay. I think Huggins is still their coach, to my knowledge. Nick Van Exel.
Villanova dropped all the way to 23.
I got nothing.
Sophomore slump.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wofford is 22.
How about that? They've been in the top 25 for a couple of weeks now. Wofford has, right?
Yeah. Iowa State dropped to 21.
Why are they still?
And they're 20.
Oh, this is NBC's poll.
They were 18 last week, but they have Iowa State at 21. They have Buffalo at 20.
Okay.
Buffalo. Wisconsin's at 19.
Okay.
Florida State's at 18. Moved up. Virginia Tech is at 17.
Right.
Kansas is at 16.
Oh, I know what that means, guys. We haven't heard Kansas State yet. So NBC's got this figured out. Purple Rain's good to have you. If you're just joining us, Derek's reading off the top 25 from NBC to kill time until 8 o'clock when we start answering questions. But appreciate everybody who's here so far.
15 is a very angry Nevada team.
They are very angry. I haven't seen enough video of the court to know if any of that was justified or not, but boy, the reaction was entertaining. Holy cow.
14 is Marquette.
Uh-huh. K-State's had a Marquette too. Wow.
Marquette must have lost. They dropped from Marquette.
Yeah.
13, Houston.
Houston falls a little bit. I'm sure after losing to UCF at home. Had game day there and everything.
They only dropped UCF only dropped in 2 spots after that, though. Interesting enough. Number 12, Michigan State.
So still okay. State Sparty at number 12.
They lost to Indiana.
Well, big for Indiana, who's going to get in the bit perhaps the worst major conference record ever, but they've got a real shot at getting in there.
Number 11, this team is surging. LSU.
K-State yet still.
10, K-State. NBC is K-State top 10.
It's probably the best poll I've ever heard.
Scott Wildcats here.
Yes, we're not going to talk Bachelor, but maybe we will. I don't know. It sounds like you got to talk to Nats about it the other night. So
you got your Phil.
Yeah, same thing.
9 is Purdue. They all jumped in the top 10.
Yeah.
I told you a couple weeks ago I like Purdue this year.
Yeah, I was driving through Indiana when they were playing Indiana, so like, it's funny. So, I felt like I was part of those teams that night, and Purdue had a win where
we're the Big Ten.
Where what's his name, Haas.
He's not that
We're Scott. It's Harms, it's Hams, whatever. Scott, this is a big deal. We're counting down NBC's newest top 25, which I believe will have a major impact on K-State's tournament seeding. And he's reading it all because K-State was. Hell yes, absolutely.
Number 8, Michigan.
Okay. So I like Michigan. I mean, it's weird. Like, I don't like. We're all the same. KSO, we've got a big kind of anti-Michigan group because, as you know, D-Wise is kind of an Ohio kid, Ohio State. Flando loves Michigan State as his second team, and I just kind of like Michigan State and Ohio State too. Randomly, always have. So we're a bunch of Michigan haters. But we don't hate Michigan basketball that much. I don't know why.
Fab Fives.
Yeah, Fab. Well, yeah. I used to have a Jimmy King jersey when I was a kid.
I like Chris Webber.
At least at best, the 4th most popular member of the Fab Five, Jimmy King, after Webber, Rose, Juwan Howard. But probably had a Ray Jackson, so Jimmy King would be the 4th.
There's a Ray,
yeah, the 4th of the Fab Five. But I had a Jimmy King jersey. I wore it probably a million times. Where are we at number now? Let's keep going. Sorry.
No, I love it. So we're burning time.
Yeah.
7 is Kentucky.
Okay. This got drilled by Tennessee, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So interesting enough, team we didn't mention is number 6. I figured you would make the observation. Texas Tech.
Red Raiders all the way at number 6. I mean, I guess. I don't have a
K-State's
if K-State's number 10 in your poll, then I can see you voting Texas Tech number 6. Sure.
Yeah. So
2 fewer losses,
Two Big 12 teams top 10. NBC likes the Big 12 more than everyone else.
Well, they have Iowa State ranked still. Yeah, NBC believes in the Big 12.
KU 16.
Right.
They should have no horns in it though. That's your team right now.
Texas Red Hot, man. Best 16 and 13 team ever. I do not. If you care about the Big 12 tournament, and that's a different topic altogether, I do not want to see K-State play Texas in the Big 12 tournament.
You already said,
piece of it.
You already said your wish is KU to play Texas
right. And that's how it's shaping up. I mean, when I do my little bracket generator all the time, I have KU at 3, Texas at the 6. First round, Texas, get them out. KU, I mean, get them out of here.
Yep. Number 5, Tennessee.
Yep. They could maybe be higher, but I think they really took a big hit for that first loss to Kentucky, and then they dropped another one this past couple of weeks, didn't they, Tennessee?
Yeah. And I, not to harp on this too, but I remember I forget what metric it is, but someone was saying that maybe Tennessee's a little bit of fool's gold because their actual conference strength of schedule was the same as was like 5 of their mid-major teams.
Yeah.
So they haven't they play in the SEC, which isn't great for basketball, and it's they had an easier schedule within the 4 is North Carolina, 3 is Virginia, 2 is Gonzaga, 1's Duke. So how about that? That tells you NBC loves the ACC too. 3 teams in the top 4.
Yeah, ACC Big 12 make up half the top 10 for them.
Yeah, Duke, Virginia, North Carolina probably can't go wrong. There's a chance ACC could have 3 number 1 seeds.
That's crazy. I mean, I don't really have a huge argument with it.
No.
Good question. Official first.
Oh, you busted it. Explain it. We told you it was going to happen.
Yeah. We don't need the mics. No.
Is he going to be okay?
They said it sounds good.
They said it sounds like a unicorn. Oh, there's 4. Oh.
So you just help keep the crowd quiet for us, man.
Yeah. Crowd control.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw your message.
We're leaving at 7 in the morning, Flando.
Really?
Yes. What time do you think we're going to leave to go to Dallas tomorrow?
I thought you said we were going to talk 6.
Well, we should have. What?
He's a little stunned. Are you so early?
Oh, no.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. You're acting totally normal about it. So that's why we're asking.
Yeah.
You doing good?
How was your fake patties? Okay. He's being totally normal.
Yeah. Why don't you hang out with Neil downstairs? Yeah. Okay. We're going to leave at 7 is the answer to the question, Scott. 7 a.m., 8-hour drive. We'll know hit some traffic. We'll have to stop about 30 times, but we can get there by 6, go get our credentials, get a little parking pass, hopefully be in the arena by 6:30.
Get some shots up.
I might get some shots up. I don't know. So it's 7:58, about 2 minutes to start time. So we're going to start this here in 2 minutes. We've only the second one of these we've done. We're going to keep an eye for your questions on our chat on the right side of the screen. Derek and I will inevitably miss some of them. So as I've said before, don't be afraid to ask it more than once to make sure we catch it. Don't take it personal if we do make a mistake and miss your question. Just keep asking it and harping on us with it. We'll make sure we find it. So I'd appreciate that. We'll plan to go till about 9 o'clock. But if there's questions that are coming in and it's still relatively busy, we're not going to cut it off just to get out of here. We'll probably have some people come in and out the door a little bit, like maybe Mason and Kurtz and Flando just did, and my brother-in-law just did. So if I look distracted, that's why. And again, this will have a private link, so we can answer, I would say, somewhat sensitive questions, but we're not real stupid. We understand that it doesn't take a lot for someone to give this link to somebody else and to get out there for free. So we'll still err on the side of caution a little bit, but we'd like to consider this, like a premium paid chat, because you can't get into this unless you have the link. And you only have the link if you got it off our message board or if you gave it. Available to see on replay, if that's what we want to call it. So if you missed some of this or all of it or part of it, you'll be able to see it again. So it's just short of 8 o'clock. We're going to start doing this. Obviously, Derek Young, Matt Hall, K-StateOnline, KSO Live Chat on YouTube. The big topic for most of this is going to be K-State basketball, of course. Derek will talk K-State recruiting, so would I, of course. We'll be happy to talk about anything you really ask us for the most part. But until we get questions, we're just going to talk K-State basketball. The Wildcats, of course, beat Baylor 66-60 last night in Ramos Coliseum. Moved to 12-4 in the league. We'll go to TCU tomorrow night with a chance. If things work perfectly, if K-State beats TCU tomorrow night, and if Texas were to surprise Texas Tech and Lubbock, K-State would clinch a share of the Big 12 championship tomorrow night. Would be a fascinating thing to, of course, see happen. But DY, until we get a question, just you were in Brambles again last night. You've been there quite a bit this year. Just general thoughts on the game, and in particular on Xavier Sneed, your guy.
Yeah, I'm big on the way Xavier Sneed has been playing in the past month. If you guys haven't caught it yet on KSO, I think and Matt's been kind of the same way on Cam Stokes. And I think we've had this conversation plenty off air. And yes, Barry Brown and D. Wayne are the two best players on this team, and they're the best players more than often. And even Barry, in part of this month, has been playing pretty good, even if he's banged up or not. Dean's been on and off because he's probably had a little bit more of a health bug to deal with than the rest. But if put in simple terms, the last month and a half has probably happened for Kansas State, and they kind of stayed afloat, stayed in first, even if they lost the outright lead. They have Cam Stokes and Xavier Sneed probably to thank the most for that. And I'd like to say it's kind of close, but I don't think it's really that close. I think it's easily been this too.
Absolutely. So we got a couple questions in here. We'll get through these. If we fall behind, we'll kind of slow down and catch up. We'll let you know if we get behind to the point we can't take any more. I'm just going to ask these to Derek, and then he can answer, and then I'll add something if I have something different or better. I probably will, of course. So first question we're going to ask here, other than Scott's question when we're traveling to Dallas, will be from Ning Liu. He asks, is Austin Trice past Levi Stockard on the depth chart, or is it more about matchups? I'll ask you your perception of this first, and I'll throw in anything I have if I do.
It's a really good question, because I think that's probably the only thing that's a little bit in limbo when it comes to the rotation. Everything else is probably going to be more foul trouble dependent on anything else. I think probably a little bit of both, because as we saw, Levi Stockard still got in plenty, but his usual allotment of minutes against KU.
Right.
It was good in both games against KU, to be honest. So I think there is still an element of where it's matchup dependent, but taking the matchups out of it as a neutral thing, then I would say that they probably do favor Austin Trice a little bit more right now.
I think so too, and I think it may be less matchup dependent and more where they play the game dependent. Somebody's knocking on our door.
Mason.
It's Mason, of course. Flando's job was crowd control, but he wasn't there for it. Of course, we talk about being matchup dependent. I think it'd be home and away dependent, because I know for a fact Bruce Weber said to us in either a post game or a press conference or somewhere that Trice didn't play against Baylor the first time because of their length, and he thought he wouldn't get a matchup. He played against him the second time. The only difference was home against road. So I think that's probably what it was. I think he has passed him, but of course we saw Levi first in Lawrence and only in Lawrence, probably home versus road. I think Austin Trice is even or has passed him. And I think it'll probably continue down that path going forward.
And I think it was probably even, but up until even this past game. But every time Austin Trice has gotten in with 3 of the last 4 games, so he's starting to get more and more confidence. And what's working in his favor, he's played well each of those times.
Right.
I was surprised he didn't play more last night, to be honest. I think he got 8 minutes. We asked about him in the post game. You can see it in the video Flandel put up on the site. Both Dean Wade and Cam Stokes, incredibly complimentary before I could really even finish the question about Austin Trice. They really praised not just the energy he brings, but they really believe he impacts the rest of the team from an energy perspective. So I kind of thought he could have played some more, but he did not. So we'll go next question. I'll ask Derek first. In the KSO algorithm, a very official thing. We have to put the numbers in after the question. But what are the chances of Texas winning at Texas Tech tomorrow night, in your opinion?
We had some of this discussion off there
Absolutely.
as well. And it was kind of going to be funny to be able to share some of those thoughts of the conversations we've had. Now, I don't know how likely it is or if it's going to happen. None of us do. The only thing that I've gone as far as to say, and it might sound strange, I think there's a better chance that Texas Tech loses at home to Texas than on the road to Iowa State for some. And I think it's kind of the way both teams are playing right now. In Iowa State, if they're hitting shots like, you said earlier, they're probably going to stay engaged. But just, all things being equal, Iowa State is less interested than Texas right now, I think, in finishing out this regular season because they had dreams of, till much recently of winning the Big 12 and had a real shot at it. We're in first place for a little bit there. But Texas is playing so well right now. And they've already beaten K-State. They've already beaten KU. I think Texas probably has a better chance of knocking off Texas Tech than Iowa State does.
I think Texas is a better team than Iowa State right now, and I don't think it's close. I don't think over the course of the season they're better. I'm not saying they should be seeded higher. They shouldn't. The whole season counts. It's the whole body of work cliche. But right now, Texas is a better basketball team. They beat Iowa State by 20 in Austin yesterday. Being in Lubbock is why I still think the Iowa State game in Hilton Coliseum is tougher. Texas Tech lost to Iowa State at home. Has to go to Hilton. Iowa State's going to want that game for its seeding purposes. But I do agree in a lot of ways. I think Texas is a better team. I don't know if we've said percent chance yet. I think 34% chance, 35% chance that Texas wins at Texas Tech last night. What do you got? Percentage chance of Tech losing to Texas tomorrow.
I think it's more 50-50.
50-50, DY says. Well,
I really like Tech. Febris, we'll put it this way. They beat Iowa State, crushed Iowa State, and then they crushed Kansas State and Bramlage.
Right.
The weird thing, the common denominator in both those games, Jace Febris shooting the lights out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we're pulling for Jace Febris. New hair for Jace Febris. I don't know if you caught that. I like it a lot, too. My girl's hair are great. Jace Febris' hair are great. So next question. I don't know. Actually, I don't want to skip. Okay, this is from Miles. I don't know how you want to answer this because some of this may be – the question asks, sorry. Are you guys going to have any special privileges during spring practice? I'll say an answer, and then DY can say what else. Special privileges, I would say no, but there will be significant access to the program through spring practice. I don't think we should talk about specifics because I don't know that they've been given out to all the media yet and that kind of stuff, and we don't want to get anybody in hot water. But it will be way different, right? I mean, you could say that, way different than what you've experienced.
Yeah, I've had a conversation with someone that kind of revealed what the spring football access will be for the media. And I'm not going to reveal any of that either because they haven't given it out yet. But I wouldn't say, if anyone's asking if this is the question, we're not going to get any more access than another media outlet, if that's the question. But we're going to get much more than we got, say, a year ago.
Absolutely. Marcus asks if K-State owns the tiebreaker. Sorry, I saw a thing pop in our group message. If K-State owns the tiebreaker over Texas Tech, every scenario I've played out, they do. I mean, I can't say that for a fact. I'd be lying if I said I did all the research, but every different way I put in the system, if K-State and Tech have the same record, I have K-State getting a higher seed than Texas Tech. If both go 14-4, K-State would be the 1 seed from the research I've done. If both go 13-5, looks like K-State would still be the 1 seed. I see scenarios where if all three tie, or if Kansas and K-State tie at 13-5, where Kansas could be the 1 seed, but I think if it's K-State, Texas Tech, everything I've messed with at least has K-State owning the tiebreaker and being the 1 seed in the Big 12 tournament. Hound Dog asks, thoughts on Dean's Monster Slam versus Baylor and Young at the basketball afterwards. So maybe you could share your thoughts about Dean before the game that you saw, his athleticism and how he looked, and then that play in particular, and your thoughts on that play.
Yeah, before the game, and something we kind of pointed out, or at least that I saw, was I thought bouncier was the term I think we used, and he just looked different in warm-ups, and a good kind of different. He was throwing down some, very rare slam dunks that he typically did before he got injured. So we kind of got the indication even before the game started that we were going to get a healthier Dean Wade. Right. We certainly did. Now that slam dunk in particular, first off, you like to see that from Dean because you'd rather him be that kind of person from a mentality standpoint than the one that kind of, tends to disappear in games because, it is what it is. But in itself, I'll be admit with the way he stared down a basketball and like got really angry at it. Kind of strange.
It was unique.
But if that works, then it works. And they need him to be that way.
I got nothing to add. I think that's exactly right and well said. Marcus asks or notes that Wyatt Hubert is looking huge, which is absolutely correct. How good will he be this season, Derek? I don't want to put this all on you all night. I'll start helping more, but I think you have a pretty good amount of insight on Wyatt Hubert and him and what he's gone through in a positive way as he's developed in this program. Just your thoughts on Wyatt Hubert so far this offseason.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the leaders. I mean, you guys see the videos on social media all the time. He's the one breaking him down the huddle, so he's going to be counted on big. And maybe you can tell me to pump the brakes a little bit, and if so, that it would probably be justified. But I think there's an outside chance that he's going to maybe contend for an all-conference, if not this year, next year. But I think there's a chance he could do it this year. I think he's going to be that good.
Ning Lu is next. We're basically caught up, but our screen is full of questions right now. So if you give us 20 seconds before throwing another one in there, I'd sure appreciate it. Ning Lu asks, is McCall Wayne in a confidence rut or just going to the random low versus Baylor? He again messed up by fumbling a pass, absolutely, and slipping on another possession. One note, the slip wasn't a slip. He got his foot kicked by a Baylor player. It was right in front of us, and he fell down. So that probably should have been something. DY, I remember saying, it's got to be something. It's a foul, it's a travel, it's something. But and I say kicked his foot. The Baylor guy didn't look at his foot and kick it to be a jerk. I mean, it was incidental contact, but that's why he fell on that play. But your point still stands. He really struggled last night outside of doing a nice job keeping Baylor off the offensive glass. That was his biggest contribution, maybe his only contribution. He turned it over a lot, was not a threat inside. He struggled for a while. And I don't know if it's so hard to explain on Mac. I don't know that it's a confidence thing. He's just the most unique mental personality I think K-State basketball's had in a long time. It's hard to know how things are going to impact him or affect him. And I don't know. It's a 50-50 coin flip every night. He might be really good. He might be really bad. But my point is, I don't know that anything Mac does in one game can give you a great indication of what he's going to be tomorrow night at TCU.
No, and because he's probably strung together enough in a row, you could probably fair to say that he's in a slump, but only on the offensive end. You pointed out, we were watching the game about what he did on the defensive end just in that game, right?
Yeah, we were watching the game this morning, and there were a couple possessions where you're watching heads on ball screens to the point where Kai Mason dribbling back to half court and just more or less ending their possession. So there are still things Mac did last night that don't show up, but I'm not trying to dress up, what it was. It was a bad game for McCall Wayne. He was bad in Lawrence too, so it is what it is. But I don't think it means he can't be, not that you said that, but that he can't be a factor the rest of the way. Neelio, I'm going to ask you for some clarification. I totally get it. So you say if Dean shows up like he did last night, we went out, in my opinion. Do you agree? Totally. I'm just going to ask, and I'll watch at the bottom to see your clarification. Do you mean win out through the Big 12 tournament or win the 2 regular season games? Because I've got K-State winning the last 2 regular season games, whether Dean plays like he did last night, whether Dean plays like he did in Lawrence. I think K-State wins them both either way. But if you're talking about, further than that, I would have a different answer. I don't know if you've got a different one for that. We'll wait and see what Neelio asks for clarification on that.
Yeah, if the only thing I would say is if D-Wade plays like that, they might win out through the Big 12 tournament. NCAA tournament's a different monster, but through the Big 12 tournament, that's probably a fair game.
Right, absolutely. So we'll answer it that way. You don't have to clear it up because that's a good point. If he plays like that, will K-State win the Big 12 tournament? Maybe, they sure could. I think it's going to be a fascinating storyline as we get closer to that. I tend to wonder if K-State wins the Big 12, especially outright, how much they will risk playing guys minutes in the Big 12 tournament to win it. So it's a difficult question to answer in the sense that their effort in Kansas City may be tied heavily to their health and whether or not they won the Big 12 in the regular season. DY is popping his collar. Absolutely correct.
I didn't even realize that.
I think you do it all the time, to be quite honest. Sorry, we shook the table. That was me. I got excited.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, Delio. Appreciate the clarification on that. Ning Lu. Les Miles is a polarizing figure for KSU or KU fans. KU fans madly in love with the Mad Hatter. KSU fans believe him to be a clown who's mentally gone and collecting his last paycheck. What's your take on this polarizing divide? I can't think of a single coach that was this polarizing to a fan base's rival. I think I'll answer this first because I've said this before, but I think I can show maybe a lack of bias in this with my answer. I'm not a KU fan. That's very, very clear. But I was a proponent, Derek will tell you, and make fun of me for it, of the Les Miles hire when it happened. I thought it was a good hire. I thought he would bring more talent to their program. I thought he could get them to the point that they were winning 4 or 5 games a year, maybe 6 once in a while, if things went their way. And I thought it'd be a situation where whoever replaces Les Miles in, 2, 3, 4, 5 years would at least have a more talented roster
than David Beatty passed along. Now I don't believe that. From watching him speak publicly in multiple different settings, I don't think he's incredibly sharp right now or incredibly bought into this job. I mean, I think he's more interested in talking about his commercial sometimes than he is talking about what he's doing at Kansas. It doesn't mean he can't succeed. I could be wrong. But I fall on the side of him now being a bad hire. And that comes from somebody who thought it was a good one. And I'm admitting I was wrong. So Derek can share his, but mine's not coming from a place of trying to tell you I'm right because I'm already telling you that I was wrong.
To a point, I think I'm going to be a little bit wrong. I thought it would be a disaster from the first get-go. I thought it was not much different than Charlie Weiss. That's going to be an error on my part as well, too, just for the simple fact that what I've already observed from what Kay's doing on the recruiting trail, he's at least hired a staff that can do that part of the job fairly well. I don't know what they're going to look like on the field and if it's going to translate, but they're going to be able to get more talent than I give them credit for.
So there you go, a couple of different answers on Les Miles from us. Again, if this is somebody you're just joining this, you come in this late, don't worry. We'll have the whole replay posted on the site. So don't feel bad if you got in here a little bit late. Nelio says, this might sound odd, but don't we need Tech to get a little more publicity nationally? We seem to play much better with some sort of disrespect from media types.
Well, NBC has him number 6.
They have number 6. Yeah, he must have been. No, we're just joking. To kill time, DUI, we had off a new NBC top 25 before, and they had Texas Tech number 6, K-State number 10. They're top 25. I tend to think, and maybe you see this differently, and this is a great part of this chat, Nelio, or anybody else. If you disagree with us or we're missing a point, tell us. Yeah. This could be just people talking in a room. That's what the point of this is. So if I say a point that you say, man, that doesn't make sense, tell me I'm wrong. I think Tech does get a lot of attention nationally, personally. And maybe I have a weird perspective on that, but I think for how similar the seasons K-State and Texas Tech have had, and Tech's had a better one. I'm not saying they're the same because they're not, but for how similar they are, I think Texas Tech gets significantly more talk, and maybe it's deserved. So I don't know if I'm dodging your question or answering it wrongly, but I already think I'll say it this way. I'm pretty confident K-State perceives Texas Tech as getting a lot more hype than they do because they've told me that. So I don't think you need to worry about Texas Tech needing more attention for K-State to feel slighted because that's already happening.
I think a different
No. Go ahead.
I don't think that I'm not that you're saying it has to. I don't think it matters.
I don't either, to be honest.
Card because one, I think that stuff gets played up too much in sports in general.
Yep.
And two, when in the Big 12 this year, and they only have 4 losses, is K-State lost a game because the other team wasn't getting enough respect. Like K-State has won in every game that they've been favored, they've practically won. Right. Outside of playing home against Texas, and that's because they didn't have Dean Wade or Cam Stokes. And it doesn't matter who the opponent is that game. They're not going to win many games with Dean Wade and Cam Stokes are on the floor at the same time. It happens even when they go on the bench together that K-State's going to slip. So I guess the disrespecting, I guess I don't get it because when Kansas State's favored, they've won 99% of the games in the Big 12.
Right. They lost to Texas in a game where they didn't have Dean and Cam. I think they were favored at home against Iowa State, but it was very close. And, of course, Iowa State went off. The other 14, how were they? 12-4, so 16 league games. They've won every other time they've been favored. They've won a bunch of games as an underdog. I think the thing is K-State took those losses to Tulsa and A&M, which have really stuck in people's craw for a long time. And you can't throw them out because they count, and they do count. When I talk about K-State and the Big 12, I talk about Big 12 games. So at the A&M game, I don't think about the Tulsa game. I don't think about K-State, like you said, every time they've been like the underdog, they've lost. So they haven't done well in the Big 12 necessarily in the underdog role. They went to KU as an underdog, lost. They went to Texas as an underdog, lost. So I mean, of course, Texas, Baylor. I'm with Derek. I think that's overplayed. Not that you're overplaying it, but I think in sports in general, I think a lot of these players, if you sat down with Mike McGurl right now for 20 minutes and talked about media stuff, he wouldn't know any of it. So I think a lot of the stuff we know as fans and as media, they never hear. They might see this stuff on social media. That stuff probably impacts them more than anything. But what the national media says, Cartier Chata doesn't have ESPN. These kids don't watch that stuff. They watch social media and what you say on the message boards because they do see that stuff. They watch what you say on Twitter. That's what they react to, not what media types are saying. And I'm probably just saying that to myself. I feel like what I say doesn't matter. But another question here. Let's see. Steve Burke asked, you guys are saying I should skip buying tickets to the Big 12 tournament. That's a heck of a question. I'll tell you no, because I think it's a great time, and we're going to be there, and we'd love to interact with people. The Boscos are going to be there. We're going to have at least one get-together some night, maybe more than one. I would never tell you not to go, but I'd be lying to you if I didn't have a thought that if K-State wins the next 2 and wins this thing outright, and guys like Dean and Cam and Cardi are still hobbled,
K-State may not pour their heart into that tournament on the streak. Even if you lose in the first round, to sit in the stands for 3 days looking for KU fans wearing your shirt. So I would still go, but, I don't want to spend your money for you. What about you? Would you go?
Yeah. Like a cost.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Any truth to the rumor that KU hit out of the park when Kai Thomas came to visit a week or so ago? DY, I know you know the answer to this, so go ahead.
I think there is some truth to that. I kind of got into that already. It's a little bit to an extent. KU is going to recruit quite a bit better than I gave them credit for or anticipated. That doesn't mean they're going to be a good football team, because I think I still have a bit of hesitation on what Les Miles can do on the job, just because of how he presents himself and what he's kind of delivered or chose to deliver at this point. But he's got a staff that knows what they're doing, and I think that they're going to give Kansas State at this point all they can handle for Kai Thomas, and it's probably going to be a little uncomfortable for K-State fans to hear that. Kai Thomas wants to stay close to home, and he liked what he heard from KU. That's true.
Nothing but honesty from him. I know that's not the greatest news. If I had to ask you right on the spot, where do you think Kai Thomas ends up right now, what would you say?
I would say K-State if I had to guess right now.
But you think it's very close?
I think it's closer than I thought it would ever be, and it was definitely closer than it was following the K-State visit, where he was like, I put it in the recruiting notebook at one point where it was described as he was ready to commit.
Very close.
So the KU put a stop to that momentum. I'm not sure that they've swung the pendulum back to the Jayhawks, but I think they put a stop to that momentum for K-State.
Miles, ask you, DY, are you aware of this player? Devin, I'm far from the screen. Cushenberry from Topeka High, now at Indy. We'll have a new head coach at Indy this year, I guess.
Yeah.
Is this a name you've heard yet?
I have not, actually.
We'll keep an eye out for it in case we have anything for it. Hound Dog says, Barry Brown, 40 minutes, 2 for 10 from the field, 0 for 4 from 3. What happened to his scoring? It's a great question. There's a million different ways. I'll let Derek. I know what Derek's going to talk about. So, and he's probably right. He's talking about his health a little bit. I will say I saw a post. I think it was from Jar Jar on the board. A couple posts maybe saying similar things. Barry Brown throughout his career has not been immune to giant scoring droughts, and I think he's certainly improved. I think you'd like those to go away, but he has gone through stretches in every season of his career where he can't make a shot for a 2 or 3 game stretch. I would like to think that's in the past in his senior year as he got closer and still is in the race for depending on how the season finishes for Big 12 Player of the Year. But I think it's a little bit of that and probably a little bit of health. And I think that's probably what DY's been seeing some too.
Yeah, you would like to – I guess I'm using health as an excuse to a point where I know Bruce Weber said he doesn't like playing against the zone, and that's why we're seeing more Barry Brown settling for jumpers instead of getting downhill. I would probably mince words a little bit with Bruce on that now, because now we've seen a couple teams go primarily man.
Right.
And Barry's still not really want to go downhill. He had a chance. He had, I think, three or four straight possessions last night against Baylor where Mark Vidal's guarding him outside, and he probably had him beat a couple of times, and still he elected to stay back and at least pass the ball or took a jumper when the lane was there to attack. So either he's making the conscious decision to not get downhill even when he's got Mark Vidal beat, which that's, not something that we're accustomed to seeing from Barry, and it's the wrong basketball play, and it means that he's just playing bad basketball right now, or there's something affecting his mentality, and it may be a physical standpoint. I'd like it to think it's the latter, because that's a little bit more forgivable. If it's the former, then there's a little bit of a problem and maybe even more than a slump going on with Barry. There's something twisted.
That was a really weird play, and he's already referred to it, but specifically second half. Again, we're on the end of the court where K-State was going in the second half, where Barry had beaten Vidal by a full step going to the basket off the dribble. There was no one, underneath the basket. Barry was probably about free throw line, maybe 2 or 3 feet beyond it. Had him beat, never considered going to the basket. Instead, kicked it in the corner to McGurl. I think it was the play McGurl airballed a 3 from the right corner.
He overshot it.
So that was one play that really stuck out to me as unique. And I haven't gone back and rewatched it. Maybe if I watched, maybe if I paid attention to that play specifically again, as opposed to just watching it and passing, I would see something different. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of reason to be concerned. Same thing though. I would not be shocked, just like I said with Mac Moyne earlier, if Barry goes out and has a nice game tomorrow night at TCU. Let's move on here. Oh, boy, Doyle here. Trice is getting more minutes. Bench is getting stronger, it seems, each game. Thoughts? We talked about Trice a little bit earlier on, but I think to add to it, we were talking earlier. My brother-in-law's here hanging out downstairs playing 2K with Flanders and Mason about Austin Trice and about what he's done, and Sean Neal Williams in the bench. The question was, hey, last year around this Big 12 tournament, NCAA tournament time, he said, Mike McGurl was a guy who really showed up and made a difference kind of out of nowhere. We'd seen him some, but not really extended minutes until the Big 12 tournament. So you do wonder if there's a shot if a guy like Austin Trice could have a nice spurt against somebody in the Big 12 tournament or the NCAA's. Sean Neal Williams, I think the bench is getting better, absolutely better when Cardi gets back, but it's still not a strength to me.
Yeah, it's not a strength. We can talk all day about, maybe Austin Trice or Sean Neal Williams being that Mike McGurl boost off the bench, in tournament play. I mean, Mike McGurl won K-State the game against Creighton in the first round last year. That definitely happened. So that's more of the exception. That doesn't happen too much where a guy comes up out of nowhere to shine like McGurl did in the NCAA tournament. I don't think that's something you want to bank on because it's not always going to be there. It's probably going to be there 1-2% of the time. That's how rare it was. That's how much of a story it was when McGurl did it, and we probably didn't give that thing enough credit or special treatment that it indeed happened. So if they're going to get any kind of boost like that, it's got to be from Cardi Jara. That's why he has to come back.
Nini Lou says, what do you guys think going to the NFL Combine the next time K-State has multiple guys there? I'll be totally honest. I didn't even really consider it this time. I think for me, it's a situation where, K-State's playing college basketball right now. Guys who are currently on K-State's team haven't left, haven't graduated, that kind of deal. So I'm going to put my emphasis on them. We do have, of course, enough staff where we could send DY to the Combine or something like that. If it's something that we thought would be good and people would really appreciate the coverage, I wouldn't be opposed to doing it. It would feel a little bit more like we're doing it for us to go be cool and go to the NFL Combine than covering K-State. But if there sincerely is a big demand right now for what Dalton Reisner's saying in those interviews, or Alex Barnes or that kind of stuff, then I would absolutely listen to it. If that's something people would be interested in seeing, if the cost was worth the result of it. But I'll be totally honest, I hadn't thought of it until you asked the question.
Yeah, maybe it crossed my mind. I can't say I did or didn't. I just wonder if they had like 6-7 guys,
sure,
then maybe we would consider it more. I'm not saying that we won't consider it now. If it's something that people really wanted to see, obviously we do it. We're going to serve our customers, and if enough of them want to do that, then it's certainly something we have to do. I guess it kind of seems a little bit like overkill to me if there's only 2, and especially since and you could say this about plenty of things we do, but it already seems like it's covered greatly.
Yeah, but again, I don't know if it's something that we check people and people significantly liked us to do it, we'd be happy to do it. But then, and I'm not trying to make this a whole discussion, but what if there's guys at the NBA Combine? Do we go cover that now? To me, I guess when a guy has graduated or left K-State, we probably stop covering him. That doesn't mean we're going to go call him down. We're not going to call him down the line like Jeff did all last offseason, or we'll do this offseason with the where are they now? Unless there's a big demand, we're probably not going to start going and covering guys who have left K-State. Neilio says, how many running backs do you see us landing in 2020? Two. Yeah, 2's the number we've been looking at. I think it makes a lot of sense in the roster as we break it down. That stuff can always change. You like to take running backs because they're typically guys who are good athletes, can play multiple positions perhaps. But I think just running backs 2. Yeah. Scott asked, could Barry be in danger of losing out on first team all conference if the final 2 games are similar to Barry the last 2?
I don't think he's in danger of losing first team all conference. I don't think I'm playing homer here. I think that's probably sewn up. But
we'll talk through it.
But I am starting to think about it, so maybe it is. But I'll say this: even if Kansas State wins it outright, and I know this probably sucks to hear, I think he probably has lost Player of the Year.
He could have. For sure. Yeah, it'd probably be very, very unlikely for him to get back to that. If you look at it, Lawson's going to be on the first team. Culver's going to be on the first team. Trying to run through the rest. Shayok could be, but Iowa State's struggling. I don't think Texas has anybody. Culver, Lawson. I don't know if Mason is. I just don't think there's enough locks on that team, right? I used to think guys like Robinson or Bain or, all these guys, more Iowa State guys, Shayok.
Shayok, I'll say I think Shayok's on. Yeah.
He probably is. We would even again, I guess my point is this. If Shayok's on it, then Brown's on it. There's no way Shayok's going to get on the first team all Big 12 with Iowa State finishing 11-7 and K-State not having a guy on it. But if Bear Brown, averages 6 a game the last 2 and they lose one of them, I could see him falling off it for sure.
Yeah.
Miles goes on to explain us who that kid is. We appreciate that. The one he asked about earlier, so he's 6'4", 315. His cousin is Tevin Jenkins at Okie State. Okay.
We're both out of this. Tevin Jenkins is a future story. He's on to line for Topeka High. We had time at Oklahoma State a couple years ago. K-State was getting ready to play Oklahoma State this past season, and someone asked, Bill Snyder about Tevin Jenkins because Kansas State offered him, tried to get him. He was I think same class or different class, but he was with Mike McCoy in high school. Kansas State wanted him. He went to Oklahoma State. Bill Snyder didn't remember him. So and that's not to make fun of Bill Snyder here, but
it is what it is.
I mean, it is what it is, and it's the difference in recruiting right now.
Right.
What we're seeing.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It is what it is at this point. If we end up winning out from Neelio and grabbing the Big 12 championship, do you see us definitely playing in either Des Moines or Tulsa in the first round of the NCAAs? I would think so. The only thing that would cause it not to happen is if they get seeded so high, by doing all that perhaps the way the S-curve works out and all that mumbo jumbo, it makes more sense to ship them as a 3 seed somewhere else. But I would think they would have a great chance, I'm just reading the question. Des Moines or Tulsa. Yeah. So I think those are the two destinations. Des Moines is actually a 10-minute shorter drive. We looked it up. I would have thought Tulsa was closer, but Des Moines is slightly closer. Do
I think usually the teams that are seeded 1 through 4, I know what you're talking about, but don't they usually try to get them as close to their spots as possible?
They do. Yes.
So if they get to the 4 seed, I think that Des Moines and Tulsa is likely. Hopefully, you would think, because that's what they say they always do. It's funny, the 6 seed might be more likely.
Yeah. But see, the reason why it's hard to project is the bracketology I saw today from CBS has K-State as a 4, but in San Jose. So they didn't put them. It's just so hard to project. I don't think there's anything that guarantees, I don't think there's any scenario that K-State guarantees itself by winning so many games, losing so many games, that guarantees itself going to Des Moines or Tulsa. I think we know that winning improves their seed more than likely. I don't know with any certainty that it will strongly impact where they end up playing. Let's see here. Some funny stuff. And then Miles says, who will be the leader of the basketball team next year? So that's a heck of a question. Xavier Sneed comes to mind for me right away. I meant to put this in the postgame or somewhere, and I realized as you asked the question, I never did. I've never seen Xavier Sneed be as vocal as he was with his teammates as he was last night. I saw him go to multiple guys and calm them down verbally and almost physically when they were a little bit worked up. And I've seen Xavier Sneed be emotional and be a leader before, but last night was different than I'd seen. I had not seen it be to the point where I thought, oh my gosh, that could be the guy in the locker room next year. So my guess is Xavier Sneed.
It's a good guess. And I know you're talking about it. He was especially that one with Dean. And more or less trying to keep Dean locked in and actually encourage him when Dean got all fiery. So that was an interesting. I'll probably go a different way because I think, and it's funny because I'm going to say it's because X is usually a little bit more reserved, but I'm going to pick a reserve guy too. So it's funny. I think it's Cardi.
Could be. Yeah. And I think he has a chance. Mike Burrell's going to be, have a chance to be that guy. It'll be fascinating to see how that develops. I mean, this is an incredibly fun basketball season to watch and cover, whether you're a fan or media or a little bit of both. And I'm not looking past that, but next year will be fascinating to watch too. Does Dean make the second team? That's something I've been thinking about. Again, I need to sit down. A couple weeks ago, we sat down on Kurtz's show on the game and wrote it out and figured out who's going to be there. And I haven't done it in that much detail since, and I probably should. I think he probably will be, but it depends so much on the finish. If K-State wins the Big 12, they're going to have a guy on the first and second team. I just don't see the league looking at K-State saying they won it all. The coaches, at least the coaches, love Dean and Barry and Cam so much throughout the league. I can't speak for the media as much. The coaches will have him on the second team if K-State wins the league.
This is going to sound maybe a little snooty. I'm not sure that Dean has played enough or been effective enough on a consistent enough level to really be a second team player, in my opinion. You have to consider, and I haven't, what Matt said, I haven't looked and seen what other players I'd have ahead of them, but just kind of thinking that way, it just seems a little off to me. But I will say this, and it's going to be funny because people,
right?
Yeah, because people think, there's a media bias in ways there is at times, right? And it's going to be in favor of K-State in this one. I think Dean Wade will probably get second team on name alone.
I think so too. I was going to pull up the stats. Last I looked, it's funny. We expect so much of Dean Wade that I believe we
are
not fair to him sometimes. I was going to pull up the league stats. I mean, it's just a YouTube live chat. I don't have to act, super prepared. I can be honest with you guys because I think if you're looking at conference games only, which I don't know how you do it, whether you go conference games only if you're a believer in that or if you're a believer, in more. I'm not going to make you guys watch me reading this, but he may be in the top 10 in scoring. He was right on the verge of it. He was in the top 10 in rebounding. He's the number one player in offensive efficiency in the Big 12. So you can make a pretty good case that he should be a second-team guy at that rate. But, yeah, if he's played enough games compared to who he's competing against, I'll sit down probably after this, maybe write it out. And at least at the end of the year, at least we'll make all Big 12 teams, ours.
Yeah.
And tell you what they should be, and we'll see if he's on there.
I think he's going to make it, and he probably is on the borderline of probably deserving it. But he's missed enough time, and I mean, he's even had a couple of games where he had less than 10 minutes. So,
yeah. Sorry, I almost said the same one. Starting five for basketball next year, in my opinion. Right now, it ends today. Cartier Jada, Mike McGurl, Xavier Sneed, Austin Trice, McCollum Wade is your starting five next year. I think it's pretty easy for you at that five. And the funny thing is, I think Mac would play the 4 on offense, and Austin would play the 5 on offense in that set. I think that would be the 5. Sean Neal Williams would absolutely have a chance to slide X down to the 4, kick Trice out of there, but those would be the 5 I would start. Expect to start.
I would go Cardi, Mike, Sean, X Mac.
Yep. Which is probably every bit as likely, if not more likely. I think it's going to be one of those two. Dejon Gordon's going to play a bunch. Montavious Murphy's going to play a bunch. I think those freshmen will have a chance, but I think it'll be one of those two lineups that we just threw out at you will be the starting 5 next year. Hound Dog, we'll see if DY and I give different answers. I'm feeling way too confident about TCU. Why shouldn't I be? Don't ask me, because K-State's going to win tomorrow night at TCU. They haven't lost a game like this in Big 12 play all year. They haven't lost to a bottom half team in Big 12 play all year. They are 6-0 against the bottom 4 teams in the league, 3-0 on the road. There's no reason to project K-State to lose this game. Can they lose it? Of course. It's a basketball game. TCU almost beat Kansas at home. They beat Iowa State at home. They have good players. Of course, K-State can lose. But there's no reason to project it. K-State has not lost a conference game like this all year. They're not going to start tomorrow night. So I'm not going to help you with that. Maybe DY can tell you why not to be confident.
No, I feel the same way. And it's funny. That probably is more convincing than what I'm about to say, because that just convinced me.
There you go.
But I think it's also because, I'll be honest, TCU's playing like crap.
They're 1-5 in their last 6, 3-7 in their last 10. Again, if they lose it and you guys want to come on and tell me, Matt, why are you so confident? That's fine. But I'll say it again. They hadn't lost a game like this in the league all year, so I'm not going to all of a sudden predict them to do it out of nowhere.
The other thing that would concern you is the quick turnaround. But that would be if Dean wasn't healthy. He looked like a new guy last night.
And if TCU wasn't playing Saturday and doing the exact same thing. They're not traveling, of course, and that's a difference, but they played, the same day. I think going to Morgantown was a tougher trip than this in case they won that game by 14. So I'm going to pick it to be a lot closer than that, because I think TCU's got a lot to play for, but I'd be very, 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 very surprised if K-State lost tomorrow night in Fort Worth.
Their senior day, too.
Let's see here. Ning Lu says, so far we've heard the new coaching staff is surprised by the lack of length at O-line, how banged up the team was, the amount of missed tackles, and the positive depth at wide receiver. Anything else to add? When it comes to mind for me, and I'm probably still yours right now, but would be, I think they really need more and want more at tight end. I think that's probably, I'm not saying they're disappointed with the tight ends they have on their roster, because I don't perceive them to be, but they're going to want to play 2 tights a lot and use those guys a lot. I don't think they have that right now.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was trying to find one, and I wasn't thinking that way. So you got a unique one on that one there. Teen speed, maybe. Not maybe. That's probably. I mean, that's definitely something that they said that they had to add with the last 6 weeks they had in the 2019 recruiting class. That's where they went out and added. So obviously they felt that they probably didn't have enough in that department. I will say the amount of missed tackles, positive depth at wide receiver, I hadn't heard that myself. Maybe that came from someone else. Credit to them if they did that.
I've heard the receiver one. The tackles one, I'm the one who said it, and now I'm saying I haven't heard it. I'm sorry for confusing myself. The receiver one I've heard, at least I heard them. I've heard Jason Ray and Messingham kind of in general talk about liking the receivers. And maybe it's in one of our videos. They talk about missed tackles. You did a better job than we did of remembering that. But I'm sure you're right. Ning Lu says, assuming Snead goes pro, which K-State players from this year's team will be on an active NBA roster next year? I don't think Xavier Snead will be. So whether he goes pros or not, I don't think he'll be in the NBA next year.
Active NBA roster.
I'll say none.
I'll say none. Like, I know we talked about Barry and Dean. They're going to make money playing basketball.
Right.
And maybe they can get to the NBA, but if they do it, it's not going to be year one.
Right. I think Barry and Dean and X, if he went out, would all have legitimate shots in the NBA, meaning I bet they get picked up as an undrafted free agent, maybe drafted in the second round, which is totally different in the NBA than in the NFL. NBA second round picks is like basically like an undrafted free agent in the NFL. It's the same thing. So I think those guys will get shots. And it wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't sit here and say I'm stunned if Dean Wade's on a roster next year, or Barry Brown or Xavier Snead, but I wouldn't predict it. I have a hard time translating any of those games to the NBA right now. I don't have a sense of Xavier Snead leaving early, but it's not impossible. It could certainly happen. Next question. This will catch us up. So we're sitting about 40 minutes into this. We'll keep going until 9 if we have more questions. If we don't, we'll go ahead and log off and talk to you guys later. The next question we have right now is, where are you guys going to be at Thursday for the Big 12 tournament? I'll be at both sessions. Will Miles, And Scott's on here too, I know right now. I don't have the answer for you. We will get it hammered out this week. Yeah, this week or early next week with the Bosco's boys and a lot of other people. We want to have fun in Kansas City. We want to see a lot of people that we don't get a chance. Maybe you can't come to the KSO show. We're not, in Manhattan or see us. We just love to hang out and have fun and not make it a media thing where we put you on a microphone or make you listen to us talk. But we will have at least one night where the Bosco's and us get together in Kansas City and make sure we tell you all where we are, because it'd be a lot of fun, especially if we get to talk about a team that just won a conference title. So we'd really, really like that. We are caught up with questions now. It is 8:40. It's actually 8:38. I don't know why I'm lying. You guys have clocks, so you can probably see what time it is. So we're going to hang out and kill some time for a minute until we have any more questions. Now a couple more have come in. So here we go. Which of the next three are most likely to make an NBA roster next year? Now, that's a good question. I would say Dean Wade, just because I can see one, he has the size. He has the size for his position. He doesn't have incredibly long arms. He has kind of short arms for his position, but he is a legit 6'10". He is a very good athlete, and he's a very, very good shooter and passer. So I could see a number of staffs looking at that guy and say, hey, we can make him something. I mean, if you see a guy like, I'll compare Svi Mikhailov's been on an NBA roster, and I think he deserves it because of his great shooting, but Dean Wade has a pure of a stroke as that guy. So I think Dean has the best chance to be on a roster out of those guys. He agrees. I'm going to let you go first because I keep talking too much now.
Well, there's not much more I can say on top of that. You nailed it. I mean, Dean doesn't have the length, but I mean, he doesn't have the length in relation to being 6'10". But being 6'10", you're going to have length anyway, just on top of that. I know that sounds weird, but you're right. You're a tall guy.
I wasn't laughing at you. I was laughing at Scott's question. Sorry.
You're a tall guy, 6'10". He can shoot. So his problem is, like, we view Dean Wade pretty athletic, and he is. But in the NBA, he's going to look pretty ordinary.
He'd be an average athlete in the NBA, right? But could absolutely play in it. So Neilio asks, if we end up winning tomorrow night, don't you see next Saturday's game against the Sooners as the biggest regular season game in Bramlage history? Maybe 2008 KU. Yeah, to me it is. I remember 2008 KU very well. And that was a heck of a big game. But if you look back, what was K-State ranked? Number 24, KU was number 2. It did snap the streak, so it was huge. I fully understand it. But I can't compare that to winning a conference championship on your home floor, ensuring that Kansas's streak ends on your home floor, whether they're playing Oklahoma or Lehigh or Fort Hays State or whoever it is. I would agree. To me, Saturday's game would be the biggest in the history of Bramlage Coliseum.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be the voice of that when it comes to Kansas State history. I always like to revert to these guys that have kind of watched it their entire lives and have a better idea of it than I do. I guess since we got also 20 minutes to we're funny. We got Kurtz is knocking on the door, I think. But we got 20 minutes. We got questions. We also have 20 minutes to burn here too, so we can kind of get into it. What you had also said too, brought up when we were talking off camera for quite a bit, is that underrated. Hey, Kurtz, underratedly, they have a chance to win a Big 12 tomorrow night.
Correct. Yep. I think that's a fact that's not getting talked about. And I know what fans' mindset's going to be is let's focus on one thing at a time. Hey, fans, you don't have to. Media don't have to. The team's the one who has to worry about that. And again, I think fans and media too have this perception that what we think and what it doesn't very often. These guys don't know what you're thinking or what we're thinking or if we're looking ahead to that kind of stuff.
They also, and this is going to be a hard pill for all of us to swallow here. Me, you, everyone listening. They also don't care.
They don't care what I think. Correct. Like I've never had Cam come up to me and say, Matt, what do you think about how I played? They don't care. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to make fun of the question at all because I'm really making fun of media like ourselves who tries to play all this stuff up like our storylines matter and our opinions matter. And they do because they're fun discussion. And what you guys think matters because, we're all good people here. But do they really impact things? I don't think they do. They probably do with some programs and with some players. I'm sure there's a player or two on K-State's roster who probably gets on ESPN.com and reads everything about them or gets on our site, but not many of them do. I think everything we tell them about this kind of stuff surprises them.
Yeah. But getting back to the point, if they could win the Big 12 tomorrow night, watch TV. It could happen.
That's the thing. Yeah. I mean, it's underrated.
Or go to Fort Worth.
Well, that's the other thing. I've been trying to beg people to do that. But if Texas Tech loses to Texas, and if K-State beats TCU, K-State will clinch a share of the Big 12 championship tomorrow night in Fort Worth. I'm going to try to get through these because I've noticed my computer's not plugged in, and I'm afraid it's going to just turn off at some point. So let's get through these questions here. Scott asks if Tom Geller's gotten in contact with Bill Walker. Probably not because I forgot to ask him. So that's absolutely on me. I will absolutely tell Tom. I might even send him a message after this to make sure that happens. Neilio says, with the perceived lack of speed on the football team, doesn't this help incoming 2019 guys like Keenan Garber, et cetera, have a legit chance to play earlier?
I think
Plando. Plando's woke up, guys. Plando, show your face on here now.
Yeah, you gotta do it.
Okay. There he is. All right.
Playing early. I mean, that's tough. I think the lack of perceived team speed is a real thing, and I think that's why they wanted to recruit it. I don't necessarily think that it has to play right away. I think that they kind of added it not only for playing purposes. It's kind of like they're going to need it eventually. I don't know if they need it. Well, they need it now. I get that, but I guess it's great for practice too. I'll just say because they say, well, we have to add team speed now. It doesn't mean they're going to play that team speed now. Just like they said, well, we have to start adding length at offensive tackle now. Well, those guys they just added are not going to play right away. I mean, they're offensive linemen and they have 5 starters. So I don't think that it absolutely means that. Will they get a chance? They absolutely will. I think the slate's clean for everyone, but just like in any other case from year to year, it's going to depend on what the outlook looks like at that position, how much depth they have at that particular position. And in terms of Keenan Garber, I like him a lot. I think he's going to be a really good football player, and I think he has a certain element of speed to him. I think it maybe gets overblown a hair, but receivers, they're going to play less of them and than Bill Snyder's offense did. They're going to play in the 2 wide receiver sets half the time or maybe a little bit more than half the time. So that's going to take some playing time away that was already there at wide receiver. And they have 4 that I think they really, really like. I think you were the one that alluded to the positive depth that they have a wide receiver. I mean, there's a chance that this upcoming season, Isaiah Zuber and Dalton Schoen aren't going to start. There's a chance because they'll start 2 wide receivers. And what I'm hearing, it's probably going to be Malik Knowles and Hunter Rison.
I don't know that I disagree would be way too strong of a word because I think DY, everything you said is right. But I would say I do see what Neilio and DY does too. I would say I think it's more of a factor. So, for example, we talk about arm length. I think speed's a thing, that whether it's receiver, running back, the return game, defensive back, I think those to me are a little bit easier positions to play early than, say, offensive line.
Yep.
And I think if they're looking for speed, I kind of think it does make it more likely. I think DY is right. It's going to factor into a lot of things. And ironically, because of what he said about receiver, the fact they're going to play less of them, it probably cancels that out. If they were still going to play 4 and 5 wide, I bet you would. And I do think Garber could play. I mean, I see later on down here, you mentioned Tyler Lockett. On one hand, that's a tough comparison. The guy's a borderline Pro Bowl receiver. Right? Maybe he wasn't a Pro Bowl. I can't remember. But he's a borderline Pro Bowl receiver in the NFL, maybe the greatest receiver in K-State history. So that's a high bar. But if you're to go back and just judge them as recruits, which is I'm sure it's what you're doing, they're not that different. I think Keenan Garber is probably a very similar recruit as Tyler Lockett coming out of high school.
Stylistically, they probably have very similar elements to their game. So I don't think you're comparing to that's what the outlook's going to be. He's not going to he might not be as good as Tyler Lockett, and I think that. You're making that comparison because of what their games and the style of their game's going to be, and that's probably a really good comparison. Right. And I've never really come to that conclusion, so good on you for that. He would be playing in year 1 if they were still under the old offense, probably, because they needed wide receivers. Less wide receivers playing this one. It's going to be tough to break into. And like I said, even guys like Dalton Schoen and Isaiah Zuber are going to play less. So it's going to be hard for Garber to break the field in that way. But there is the 4-game rule now with freshmen.
Right.
And he might redshirt still and play 4 games.
That's a good point. And that's, a different topic than you asked, different than the speed being an impact. But these guys, Chris Kleiman and staff, have made it clear that they are going to use the heck out of that 4-game rule. They're not going to put somebody out there who doesn't deserve to be out there, who's not ready, but they are going to have no problem playing every true freshman on the roster 4 games if they're ready to play. They'll be happy to do it if they can. I'm disappointed. I see a question was retracted by the Spanish announce table. 1, I'm curious what it was. And 2, I love the name of the Spanish announce table because I was a big wrestling fan. There's hopefully a couple more in here. The Spanish announce table is the one that always gets wrecked at a WWE pay-per-view. So if I've always wondered, I always make the jokes from watching pay-per-views. If you're a Spanish-speaking wrestling fan, like, have you ever heard the end of a broadcast? Because they always break that table. So I'd love to know your question. Miles asks you, DY, who is the best Kansas prospect you have ever seen in person? Yeah, man, that's a big question. I
haven't seen too many classes, so we'll put that out there. The best Kansas prospect that I've seen in person, does it count JUCOs? I'll separate the two.
Do both.
If I count JUCOs, it's Alvin Kamara. at Hutchinson. So, yeah, he played a year at Hutch. But in general, for high school, it's probably Turner Corcoran.
Yeah. I mean, and I know you think McCoy was a great prospect in high school, but Turner Corcoran might be a 5-star top 30 type player. So it makes sense that he would be the best that you've seen.
Now, Braden Smith from Olathe South is pretty close. I don't know if you guys, most of you probably remember him. I don't think he looked at K-State much. He ended up at Auburn. He started as a rookie for the Indianapolis Colts this past year. So,
next question comes from Neilio. Do you think AD Gene Taylor needs to get Beasley back for a game next season? Yeah, I think so. I think that would be great. All things considered, I think it'd be absolutely fantastic. Gene Taylor is a really smart man. He's a really wise man. Don't think he hasn't already thought of this. Whether it happens or not, I don't know. But it will be considered for sure, and I'd love to see it happen. I think it'd be great.
I think I saw something you missed too. I think it's Scott says if K-State does.
Oh, sorry, Scott.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. That's probably no. I really didn't see it. If K-State does win on Saturday, this coming yes, there will. I shouldn't say with such certainty. I am 99% sure there'll be a ceremony. I thought you were asking if there would be one tomorrow night in Fort Worth, which I think they might even be prepared to do it tomorrow night in Fort Worth. I mean, I guess they can't clinch it outright, so probably not. But I imagine they would blow it out in Bramlage if it's a chance to win the Big 12.
They're not going to cut any nets down.
All right. Oh no, Fort Worth. I think they should. I might cut a net down in Fort Worth. But I mean, I tell you what, I know if it's empty in there, I'll get just a little snip of one, like a little tiny bit. They wouldn't even notice it.
What if Bruce comes out?
Right. Hey, evening, Lucis. Hey, Derek. How you doing, Derek? What recruiting news do you have burning a hole? I love this question. What recruiting news is burning a hole in your head that you want to immediately share? Like something that you wanted to say, you're afraid to say. This is a fun chat. This is informal. No one's going to hold you to this. He didn't say this. I'm saying all this. Say something. Say something interesting about football recruiting. Do it.
I think I shared everything. Is there something that
I don't know. I mean, no. I don't. No, there isn't. I mean, I think at one point Kai Thomas was really close. I know guys like Harden and guys like Barry I've been a watch for, but I don't think there's any nugget or something you've told me that is like, man, you've held that back and haven't told them. I don't.
Because I'll be honest, sometimes, unless it's really time sensitive, I will hold a couple of pieces, bolts in the chamber back to put together a notebook, and you guys all love those. But I don't think I even have a couple nuggets that I'm holding on for a future notebook right now. I got nothing. I think there's, could be something soon, but that I'm just guessing to something soon. Nothing that I know.
Next question here, and some clarification I appreciate about the Garber stuff, which we already talked about. Hound Dog says team of choice on NBA Jam. Now, this is a question that I love to answer. If I have to win a game to save my life, I have to realize the rosters we're playing with are from 2011, so they're very dated.
That's fun.
The best team on there, I think we're going to play tonight, actually, after we get done with this, because we've got enough people to play 4-on-4 as long as somebody brought a controller. I bet they did.
I was supposed to.
Right, I bet he did. He's a good guy. So the best team on there is the Celtics, because Ray Allen is the only person on the game with a 10, which is perfect on three-pointers. And then Kevin Garnett's a great defender. So I don't like Boston, but that's the best team on there. If I just want to have fun, probably the Mavs, because Dirk is such a great shooter and has such size. That would probably be my favorite NBA Jam team to play with. You guys were good with the Lakers, Kobe and Gasol. That's who you guys were.
Lamar Odom, actually.
Yeah.
Because Lamar Odom can block shots and shoot a three. And then another one that I think other people had a lot of success with was actually the Warriors, because they have
Monte
Ellis with Steph Curry, and Steph Curry can still shoot.
And it's a younger Steph, but it's still a really good Steph. So the Warriors are really good. It shouldn't be called NBA Jam. It should be called NBA Jump Shot or NBA Three-Pointer, because you don't win that game by jamming. Or NBA Shove. No one is better at shoves on NBA Jam than I am. I'm not the best player on NBA Jam, but if it's about shoving, I am the best.
I can shoot.
Absolutely. Hound Dog asks, is there a good chance of Cartier Jada coming back for the Oklahoma game? He is a bigger factor than some realize. Yes, on both accounts. I mean, I'm always a big on nitpicking wording.
Good chance.
Good, I don't know. Real. There is a real chance he comes back against Oklahoma.
I'll put it this way. I think he thinks he's going to play.
I would agree. I bet if Cardi was sitting right here, he'd probably say, yeah, I think I'm going to play. So not a sure thing. Probably a toss-up, but you're right. He's a huge part. And I've said if K-State finds a way to get through this and win this league of 14-4 without Cardi for the last 4 or 5 games, it'll be amazing for one. And then 2, it'll be a huge blessing in disguise, because they'll have one of the most important guys in their team incredibly fresh. He's not the only, an injury to your shooting hand's bad. Don't get me wrong, but it's not a knee thing or an ankle thing or something that's going to linger there or take away his athleticism. He could come back incredibly fresh and ready to make a difference. And the fact that, and I'll say one more thing, while I just, go homer and praise K-State. If they finish 14-2 in their last 16 games in the league, 14-2 with the injuries they've had to Dean Wade, Barry Brown, Cam Stokes, and Cartier Jada, that would be amazing. I don't know how anybody could not look at that accomplishment and just be over the moon what Bruce Weber did with that team.
I agree, because let's put it this way: every team's dealing with injuries, and it's never an excuse, and it never should be, because every team's dealing with. West Virginia, no Kanate. KU, no Doak. A little bit of time without Marcus Garrett. Oklahoma State lost a bunch of players.
West Virginia.
In West Virginia, they had to kick players off the team. Iowa State's probably had good luck, and they haven't really taken advantage of it. I think they've been the healthiest and the team that hasn't kicked anyone off.
You don't get hurt when you're as soft as they are, though. You
love to say that. TCU, Quatnoy missed the game against K-State, so they haven't been perfect. I mean, I can go.
You missed another game with somebody else, too.
Yeah. Baylor, they were without Makai Mason for quite a bit.
King McClure, too.
King McClure.
No Cohen Road for Texas right now.
Tristan Clark is out for Baylor. So every team has had this, but the only team to survive it and to still win in spite of it has, for the most part, has been K-State, and they don't get enough credit for that. So on that, I would agree. And what was the question? Or Cartier Jar? What was the question? Another reason I also want to say with Cartier Jar, that the good thing about it is with only being a shooting unit, it's not great, but that he still has Bob Atkins State. He can be an elite defender again right away. Like, it's not like he has to get up to speed from a conditioning standpoint because he's been limited with his legs and this time off. He's still probably in great shape because he's been able to run this entire time. So he can come in, walk in from day one, and be the great defender that he was beforehand. And that's going to be great, I think, because if there's anything that we've seen from Barry Brown in the last 3 weeks, for whatever reason, is that his slumps aren't just all on the offensive end right now. He is making some defensive lapses that we didn't see early on in the season as well.
Well said. It's 8:55. We're going to do 5 more minutes. It'll be 9 o'clock. We got a few questions left. If any questions you get in before 9 o'clock, we're going to answer. We're not going to ignore you. After that, we'll probably go ahead and turn it off and get this posted so people can see it. You weren't in here for the chat. Mike asks if there are any news or rumors on potential grad transfers. I was going to ask which sport, and I thought, I could just answer both. I mean, that would make the most sense.
Football, no.
Football, not really. I know there's a number that DY tracked at tight end in particular, but nothing else really happened. For basketball, no. Not that it can't. I know this will annoy people when I say it. I'm trying to watch my wording. K-State's just not a huge believer in the grad transfer market. They've seen it hurt some programs and some chemistry of teams. They will do it. If they find a kid that they know very, very well and know his family and know who he is and know how he's going to fit, they'll do it. But they're going to be very picky about going grad transfer in basketball. Billy Tubbs cut down the nets at Allen Fieldhouse. I remember, I'm going to go look for a video of that because I'm sure you're right, but I just want to see it for one. And I was too young. I remember Billy Tubbs. I remember my dad hating Billy Tubbs, that kind of stuff, but I'd have to go look for that because that's a blast from the past to think about. DY, I don't know, man. You're going to have to help this. Flanders, can you pause for a second? And can Kurtz come up here too, please? Yeah, we need best hip hop artist of all time. He says his is Scarface. We're almost done. We're gonna be professional. Let's come in here, come be dudes.
I still think that.
Look at his Nugs hat, and look at his name's John Kurt.
Sorry, it was just a
if you didn't know. So Biggie, best hip. I'm not gonna answer. P Diddy. I love Mo Money, Mo Problems.
Best album, best artist,
best hip hop artist of all time. Biggie, all time, guys.
I mean, Kanye West, not the dude anymore, but musically, sonically, as they say.
What the heck? Like Seattle Supersonics?
Yeah.
Gary Payton jersey was in the crowd.
There was a GP jersey in the crowd. Flando, best hip hop artist of all time.
I heard DY say, Biggie. Yeah, it's Biggie as far as I'm concerned. And it's going to get taken over at some point since he's obviously dead. But
breaking news from Flando. Biggie died.
Current favorite rappers right now, Drake and Chance the Rapper.
Drake is fun.
I mean, we got other music on here too. I mean, this.
What do you think about Jay-Z?
I used to listen to Jay-Z
I listen to a lot of Jay-Z. I think he gets overlooked sometimes.
He does.
I like Jay-Z.
But yeah, Biggie.
Best metal band of all time.
See,
here you go.
Now, I was reading that question. I know you're going to look at me. I know. Listen, my brother is a diehard heavy metal guy. He's played in bands. Like he has taught me there's a difference between Metallica, like current Metallica, and heavy metal. So I understand that. I know that Guns N' Roses is not heavy. Like I understand that. But I don't have enough knowledge of like Like you mentioned a band from Sweden. I don't know enough about it. I will tell you a heavy metal band that I have liked over the last few years. It's, new and at least kind of would show you what I'm into would be Kill Switch Engage. I don't know if you've listened to them or not.
I've heard, but does Def Leppard count?
No, Def Leppard does not count as heavy metal. See, that's what I'm talking about though, because people will say that's like hair 80s rock band.
I don't know. That's as metal as I'll get.
No, he tried. He tried about that. Hey, Jay-Z is trash, according to Miles, just for the record, guys. So we're going to get one more question from a Hound Dog, and we'll wrap this up. He asked about McCall Wayne, had more turnovers and rebounds. What does he need to do to get better? If I had the answer to that, Chris Lowry and Bruce Weber would really, really, really appreciate me and hire me. He just has to continue working and being consistent. People want to say, is it a confidence thing? Is it a lack of effort thing? And I can't find the right word. He's just a unique personality. He's not somebody that you know what you're going to get from.
Can I
give it a try? Give it a try.
Maybe like if there's one thing like that.
Def Leppard. Hell no.
Sorry, man.
You tried.
Like one thing, if I could give him that I think might make him better, because I think some of his flaws or errors or mistakes come from this. Just like 100% awareness at all times.
Yeah.
Like even when like last night, and he's a good enough athlete. This wasn't an athletical breakdown on his part. He had a passing awareness standpoint is just terrible. Well, terrible is me, but it might be.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. And that's what the coaches will tell you. And we've told the story before, so I'm sorry for being repetitive, but you go watch K-State practice, and McCall Mulwayne, who may be the best, hedge, help screen, on-ball screen guy in the Big 12, at times in practice will forget how to do it. To the point where they have to yell at him and say, Mac, you could force Trae Young into 80, 40 footers and do whatever. Now you don't remember how to do it. So it is awareness, but it's weird. It's typically, you don't find a lot of breakdowns on the defensive end for Mac. It's typically on the offensive end from an awareness perspective.
And he's still learning and making things happen in routine. And I think it comes a little bit slower for him. And that's not a knock against him, because another thing that we picked up on practice we see is like, it's hard for him to get a drill the first time.
Right.
Like he won't.
He will not. And I think the other thing I would tell Mac, and I'm sure, again, nothing I can say the coaches haven't thought of, the bottom of the totem pole coach at K-State, whoever that would be, I don't want to be out Shane Southwell, because he's kind of a grad assistant. He knows infinitely more about basketball than I ever will. So there's nothing I could ever really offer. But if I were to tell Mac something on offense, is you've got to go quick. If Mac catches and can't turn over a shoulder and put up his half hook or dunk, he needs to get the ball back out, because when he gets into the session of putting it on the floor 3 or 4 times and really trying to work, it rarely, if ever, works out. So I'd like to see him go fast if he's going to go on offense. But again, I'm sure somebody smart me has thought of that, either told him that or they don't think it's a good idea for a reason more informed than mine.
Yeah, and not to go down a big rabbit hole, because we definitely could, because we like talking about this stuff. But if there's one gripe that I would have, and would be for all their bigs, actually, I think all of us have done. They all like to put it on the floor.
They love to.
And that gets them in trouble.
And I wonder if it's because Dean's successful with it, if they see Dean doing it and then decide, I don't know how old some people in here, but I think of Mark Jackson backing people down for 45 seconds when you had a 24-second shot clock. So that's smart in the NBA. And I've watched some of K-State's posts and think, man, they're just going to back down like Mark Jackson.
Karl
Malone. One last question, because we don't want to skip any that were in here before. Do either of you ever see K-State landing a once-in-a-generation type of talent? Sorry, I think I messed up the table. Like Beasley was. And I'm not trying to nitpick the wording, but if the question's ever, I would say, yeah. I think
they Michael.
Right.
Because would you have said never before Michael Beasley?
It will take a unique scenario, which I know you're implying, and you absolutely know. But I don't think it's impossible. And I think K-State, I'm not saying it's going to happen in the next 3-4 years, because I would bet that it doesn't. But K-State's program is trending up from a national perspective as far as how its kids are interested in them and what homes they can get in. It's always kind of a year behind. And we'll wrap up on this point. With football recruiting, basketball recruiting, whatever we talk about, you see that stuff kind of a year behind. You'll see the Elite Eight happen and think, man, where are all these big-time recruits? Well, a lot of those kids, were gone somewhere else. K-State thinks they got a pretty good class this year, kind of coming off the Elite Eight with a couple of rivals top 150 kids. I know they think Dejon Gordon's a star. I know they love Montavious Murphy. They think they signed a really good class. They think they're going to sign a good class next year. They probably, I don't want to mislead expectations, probably maybe 2 to 3 more top 150 kids. So I think they're trending in the right direction, but it's such a hard thing to project, as you understand when you ask it too. But I think it could happen, absolutely. So a little past 9:02. There's a lot of 2K and NBA Jam going on downstairs that I'm really jealous of. In all honesty, we really, really appreciated this. Thank you for the participation. If you tuned in late, we're going to put this up on the site now so you can tune into it and watch it yourself. Thanks again for the time. If you're not subscribed to this channel, please do subscribe. If you're not subscribed to our site, it seems impossible, but somebody may have given you the link, so go ahead and subscribe to our site. For Derek, thanks to Flando down there, Mason down there, my brother-in-law Neil down there, me, Nats, Red, everybody. Tell your friends. I've got to end the stream awkwardly now.